Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before we proceed to hear the testimony of the civil party, the Chamber issues an oral ruling on the request to admit civil party applications on Internal Rules 87.3 and 87.4. On the 22nd August 2016, the Chamber notes that the Nunchi defense filed a written request under Internal Rule 87.4, that is document E430, for the admission into evidence of 4 documents. 2 other documents are excerpts of the civil party application of 2 TCCP 274, that is document E319/45.4.11, and the other 2 documents are excerpts of the civil party application of 2 TCCP 286, that is document E319/45.4.8. The Chamber notes that the Nunchi defense has indicated that it may use the excerpts from document E319/45.4.11 to question to TCCP 274, who will be giving her testimony today. The Chamber further notes that part of the proposed document E319/45.4.11 is already contained within admitted document E3/6011, which is also the civil party application of 2 TCCP 274. The excerpts sought for admission by the Nunchi defense are additional parts of the said civil party application. The Chamber recalls its practice to admit into evidence all prior statements of civil parties or witnesses who appear before it, pursuant to Internal Rules 87.3 and 87.4. It is in the interest of ascertaining the truth that the Chamber and parties have access to all of the statements of civil parties and witnesses who will be heard in case 002/02. The Chamber therefore grants the Nunchi defense's request to admit into evidence the proposed excerpts of document E319/45.4.11, namely EN in Khmer 01027323/225 and English 01143513/214, and the Chamber assigns them combined document number E3/6011B. The Chamber will issue its decision on the remainder of the request in due course. Now, I'd like to hand the floor to the defense team for Nunchi to put questions to the civil party.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, parties. My name is Lee Savanna, the national lawyers in the defense team for Nunchi. I have a number of questions to put to you. First, I would like to know about the backgrounds of your relationship with you and your first husband. Whether your first husband lived in the same village and commune with you or different village and commune. Answer: my first husband lived in Jeju village. ស្ពឺ commune ចំការលើ district I live in Taong village Taong commune question how far was it between his village and your village answer I cannot estimate it they are far away from each other the distance is probably between here and Kampong Cham question did you and your husband know each other before your marriage answer we did not know each other before our marriage it's different from youth nowadays who know each other before marriage question so how could the marriage took place answer our parents arranged us to get married is different from youth nowadays question when you met your husband for the first time was it on the day of your marriage or what answer it was on our engagement day question how old was you at that time answer I was around 15 a little bit more than 15 years old between 15 and 16 years old I was rather young question was the decision of marriage yours or your parents answer my parents decision question did you refuse to get married when your parents proposed that answer no I did not dare to do so question why didn't you dare to refuse answer because at that time we had to follow our parents decision so if our parents decided to marry us to that particular man or this man we had to follow their decision it's different from nowadays question so what year was it that you got married answer it was based on my estimation it was around 1968 or 1969 but I cannot recall it well because it happened a long time ago question after your marriage during the night of your the first night of your marriage did you love your husband answer because my parents decided for our marriage so we had to follow them because they trusted in the man and they loved the man that's why they decided to marry me to him question now I move my question to the period of decay regime before your marriage during DK regime, based on your observation, did you see any other couples who were arranged by Angkar for their marriage? Answer. I heard about such marriage, but I did not witness the event myself because I was busy working. I heard from people about such arranged marriage during the regime. Question. What about your unit? Whether there were any people who were arranged by Angkar to get married? Answer. Yes, there were. But after their marriage, they relocated to somewhere else. For example, if their husband were based at village 2, the wife moved to join the husband at village 2. Question. Earlier, you mentioned that if both sides agreed, they would propose to Angkar to arrange marriage for them. So what do you mean by when they agreed to love each other? Answer. They proposed through Angkar that that they love the other side, and if the other side agree, and then the marriage took place. So in this case, it was not a forced marriage, it was a voluntary one. Question. So based on what you said, can I say that the man and the woman can ask each other first whether they love each other or not, and if yes, they could propose through Angkar? Is that correct? Answer. No, it's not like that. The man proposed to the chief of the woman, and the chief of the woman would ask the woman. It was not like both of them had relationship first. Question. So that means if a man loves a woman, the man would propose to the chief of the woman. And did you ever see such case at your unit? Answer. I witnessed only one case. The person that I told you earlier, I did not have time to follow other cases because I was so busy with my work. Question. Besides that person, did you observe or see the arranged marriage of people in units that were nearby yours? Answer. I was not so much interested in that because I just focused on my work and focused on myself. I knew only about that one case, nothing else. As you were aware that at that time people were busy with working, and after work they came back for a short rest and then went back to work. Question. Before the break time, you talked about your cousin named Heng Dani, whom were forced to get married. Who was she forced to get married to? Answer. She was forced to get married to Wun, a handicapped person. She doesn't love him, and she did not want to get married to Comrade Wun. Question. When she told you, was that before your marriage or after your marriage? Answer. She told me before my marriage. She was forced to get married before me. My marriage took place later on. Question. Also before the break time, you mentioned that your nephews were taken away to be killed because he was alleged of being part of the network of enemy. Can you tell us what year it was when he was taken away to be killed? Answer. It was in 1978. But I don't know whether it was at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the year. Question. Mr. President would like to quote her answer in document in the victim information form E3/6011A. EON in Khmer 01003356. In English 01137890. French 01030293. I would like to quote now. My nephew Heng Van Ni in late 1978, Tan transported him by vehicle to the military base. End of quote. Free translation. I would like to ask you, Madam Civil Party, whether you remember the specific year when your nephew were taken away. Answer. It was in 1978, but I do not remember whether it was at the beginning, the middle, or at the end of the year. I cannot recall it well because now I am old. Question. In your answer that I just read to you earlier, you said that it was at the end of 1978. So, is that ring a bell to you? Answer. Probably it was confusing. It was probably at the beginning or the middle of 1978 because my marriage also took place in 1978 and she was taken away to be killed. So I think it was confusing, and I would like to apologize if it was my mistake to give such an answer. Question. Now, I move my question to focus on your marriage. Who came to propose to you for the marriage between you and your husband? Answer. Initially, it was Om Pon, who came to ask me whether I agree to get married to the man. I did not answer his proposal yet. And then Angka came to ask me to get married, and I did not know whom I would get married to. Question. Who came to propose to you? What was his name? What was his position? President. Madam Civil Party, please wait until the tip of the microphone turns red. Civil Party. At that time, he came to ask me, but I was not interested much in the proposal. And later on, Chang, the unit chief, came to ask me. Question. So, based on your statement, Porn came to propose you to get married to him. Is that correct? Answer. Yes, that's correct. Question. Did you reply to his proposal? Answer. I did not respond in length, but I thought myself that if he proposed, I would agree. But when the marriage took place, it was not him. Question. Later on, did you ever see Porn again? And did he tell you the reason why he proposed to marry you? Answer. No, I did not meet him again because I was arranged to get married to another man. Question. You also said earlier that your unit chief came to ask you. So what did the chief ask you about? Answer. The unit chief did not come to ask me. I said that the chief of the unit told me to go to the wedding place. Question. So what was the name of that unit chief? Answer. Comrade Chain. Question. Was the unit chief the chief of the cooperative, or chief of village, or chief of commune? Answer. The unit chief was in control of the whole village 7, and that person was called the unit chief. But at my place, the person was called the union chief. Question. Was that person a man or woman? Answer. A man. Question. When you worked at the union, beside the chief of village 7, was there any other people who leading you to work, or was there only him alone? Answer. There were groups chiefs, unit chiefs. There were hundreds of people who worked at that time. It was not 10 or 20 people. Question. What was the name of the direct supervisor of you? Was he a man or a woman? Answer. The person was Nay. I can recall only that name. Question. Nay, a woman or a man? Answer: woman. Question: when you were told to go to the wedding, was Nay also present? Answer: no. No, she was not there. It was the unit who came to tell me. Question: what were you doing when you were told that? Answer: I was tapping the resin. Question: during DK regime, did you ever attend meetings? Answer: there were regular meetings at the unit. I never attended any big meeting. If I went there, I only went there for a short time and then came back to my unit. So I can say that I attended the regular unit-based meetings. Question: so when you attended the big meeting for a short time, did you ever hear the announcement about the policy of the revolution? Answer: yes, I heard such announcement. They talked about the morality and about those who committed the moral offenses and they were arrested to be re-educated. Question: besides moral offenses, do you remember any other morality aspects? I mean the 12 morality aspects. Answer: no, I cannot remember them all because it took place a long time ago, so I cannot remember everything. Council, Mr. President, I would like to quote from document E3/765 about a youth magazine dated October 1978. It's related about the 12 morality aspects, and I would like to read the 6th point about the banning to commit any offenses against women, and the document has the EON number in Khmer 00515493, English 00539399, French 005400 through 25. And I would like to quote: overall, don't touch the women because it will harm the reputation of our people. And related to marriage in the same EON number, I would like to quote: related to the current marriage, there was no problem as long as we stick to the two principles of the Angka One is both sides agree, and second point, the collective agree. So there was no problem. End of quote, free translation. So after my reading of this aspect to you, did you ever hear the announcements of this during that regime? Answer, yes, I heard about it. But I did not remember it well. Question. When you heard so, and when you were arranged to get married, you said that you refused. When you heard the policy, you heard that the marriage took place only when there were agreement from both sides. Answer. When they wanted to force us to marry, they forced us. Initially, it was like that policy that both sides had to agree first. But at the time of my marriage, it was an absolutist practice. They forced us to marry. It was like what I told you earlier. Question. Now back to your story. When the unit chief came to tell you, did you protest it or disagree with him? Answer. Yes, I protested, but he said that I must go because it was the order from Angkar. Question. How many times did you protest to him? Did you end your protest after you heard him saying that you must go, or you kept on protesting again and again? Answer. I did not protest many times. I protested only one time, but he said that I must go, so I went there by following his order. I went out on the exact day that he required me to go. That was the practice during DK regime. Question. Did you have time to consult with your parents or your relatives before you went to get married? Answer. My parents were not aware of my marriage because she lived at a different place from mine. I did not have time to go and invite my parents and siblings to join my wedding.
Question. Can you tell the chamber if you recall in which year that you got married? Answer. I got married in 1978. However, I cannot recall whether it was in early, mid, or late. But I believe it was in early 78 because by late 78 I delivered my child. Question, Mr. President. I'd like to read the statement of the civil party that is from her supplementary victim information form, document EC/6011A. in Khmer is at 01003356 and English 01137890 and French 01030293, in which he made mention the following point, and I quote, "In 1977, Heng Wanni Alice Ruan was forced to get married, but she refused. Therefore, she was called by Angka for re-education on several occasions. I was also forced to get married in 1977, but I initially refused, but finally forced myself to follow the order." End of quote. And Madam, can you specify again whether you got married in 1977 or in 1978? Answer: it was in 1978, and maybe I made a mistake in my previous statement when I mentioned that it was 77, because I had a child in later 78, and my apology for this mistake. So that is all right. And let me continue and move on to the day of your marriage. You testified yesterday that there were 12 couples. And can you tell the chamber whether women of all those 12 couples were widows or some of them were single women? And I did not know whether they were unmarried or they were widow. I did not ask around, because those women did not come from the same village. There was only one couple from one village. Question: so amongst the 12 couples that got married on that day, did you know any of the couples that got married on that same day? And as I said, I did not know them, and we were from different villages, and we did not have any contact with one another. I did not know any man or woman. I only saw them briefly during the marriage reception. Question: and after the marriage took place, and until now, have you made any contact or come across any of those couples who got married on that day? Answer: no. I do not know where they are, and probably I do not recognize them if I see them. Question: before the break, you stated that you were given a room to rest that night. Can you tell the chamber whether you were given a room as part of our house? And it was a room in a separate house. Question: before the break, you said that during that night you did not have sex with your husband, and in the morning he reported the matter to his chief Pan. Subsequently, Pan called you to meet him. Can you tell the chamber how many days after that Pan called you to see him? Answer. This morning I testified that I was called that night, that is after my husband reported the matter to his chief, and that happened on the very same night. Question. So he called you to see him on the very same night of your marriage, or on the night subsequent night? And so it was on the night of the marriage. Question. Who came to call you out, and what time was it? Answer. That time I did not know what time it was, but Comrade Pan came to call me to go and see him, because my husband complains that I did not consummate the marriage with him. Question. What was the distance between the room that you stayed and the place that Pan called you to see him? Answer. I cannot recall the distance. It was not that far. There were some trees and bamboo trees in between. It was neither close nor far from where I stayed that night. Question. When you arrived at Pan's place, was your husband there? Answer. No, he was not. Actually, he was staying in the room. When you left the house, was he in the room with you, or was he somewhere else? Answer. When I were leaving, he was there in the room, and after I left, I could not say whether he was in the room or whether he went somewhere else. Question. Did your husband know that Pan called you to meet him at his place? Answer. If he were not to report to Pan, then what was the purpose of Pan calling me to see him? Question. I'd like to clarify the point. When Pan came to call you to his place, was your husband present in the same room that you were in, or in the same house that you were in? Answer. He was there, because when he went to see Pan, he came, and then Pan came to call me to go to see him, and I did not know what he wanted me for. I just followed him. Question. And when you arrived at Pan's place, who else was there? Answer. He was there by himself, and then there was a table and a chair in a quiet room. No one else was present in that room. And also there was a bed there, and he was sitting in a chair near a table. Question. Upon your arrival, what were you asked? Answer. I was asked the reasons that I refused to consummate the marriage, and then I told him the reasons, and then he forced upon me, and he wanted to rape me. I resisted, but I failed, and he had a pistol with me, and I was afraid that I would be killed. For that reason, I let him rape me, and that was also the reason that I decided to live with my husband, because I was afraid that I would be killed. Question. And were you aware that the fact that he raped you was a serious offense under the decay regime? And so, of course, it was a serious offense, but who could I tell of the offense? If I were to tell someone, then I myself would be dead. Nobody could help me. He was a person in authority. Who could dare to challenge him? I never told such a story to anyone, but now it is a time for me to speak it out. Even my blood siblings, I have never told them about these intimate affairs. This is the first day that I spill it out. That during the regime there were cruel people and there were innocent people. There were bad and versus good people. Question. Allow me to move on. And when you returned back to your room that night, did you talk to your husband? And if so, what did you talk to him about? And so no, we did not talk about anything because we argued, and we simply slept. In the next morning, I went to my unit and he went to his unit. That's what I testified yesterday as well. Question. And when was the next meeting between you and your husband? Answer. It took place about 10 or 15 days after. Question. And what did he tell you when you later met? Answer. He didn't say anything much because I was already raped, and I was so afraid that I would be killed because the rape was a warning to me, and also that the night that we met, I went down to relieve myself, and I noticed the presence of some militiamen. So I knew that they were monitoring us. That's why I decided to sleep with him. Question. And when you went up to the house, what happened next? Answer. Nothing happened because everything's finished. I told him that there were soldiers on the ground. Question. Can you clarify it a bit further? What did your husband ask you when you went up to the house, and what did he do to you? What happened? And we didn't talk much. We spoke about our disagreement, and I told him that I disliked him. I did not speak much, and that is my habit. I did not like talking or speaking or saying anything when I'm asleep or when I'm in bed. President, question, Mr. President. I'd like to quote her previous statement. That is from document E3/6011 at Khmer EN 00496721 20-21, and English and French. There is no French or no English translation. In the document, she stated that in 1978, I was pregnant and delivered a baby girl, something like it. And the baby was a result of my marriage. In fact, after the marriage, I refused to consummate the marriage, and about a year later, that is in 1977, I agreed to consummate the marriage, and not long after, I became pregnant. End of quote, free translation. And Madam, can you try to recall that you consummated the marriage with your husband? That is almost a year after your marriage, and that it took place in 1977. Does that jog your memory? Answer. I have stated from the beginning that I made a mistake when I referred to the year of 1977. In fact, it even took place in 1978. And when I agreed to consummate the marriage with him, it was at a later part, and then I became pregnant thereafter. Question. You said you did not consummate the marriage on the night of your marriage, and about 10 or 15 days later you met him once more, and that you slept with him. But in the statement that I just read up, you said about a year after you agreed to consummate the marriage with him. So can you tell the chamber which version is correct? Answer. Counsel, I said that after I was forced to have sex, 10 or 15 days after, I was allowed to meet my husband, and if I were not to have sex with him, then I would be taken and raped again. And we did not meet each other every day. It happened about a month or two after. Question. I'd like to pinpoint the exact year, because in your previous statement you said that you consummated the marriage only about a year after your marriage day. So please tell the court which version is the correct one. Answer. Maybe I made a mistake in my previous statement. And of course, when I'm asked so many questions, I'm confused. My memory does not serve me that well. I also have problem with my memory. I am also old. So when you ask me back and forth, it's confusing. Of course, when you reach my age, you tend to make some mistake due to your memory lapse. Maybe in my previous statement, I wrongly indicated a year of 1977. But as I stated, after I was raped by the chief, later on I agreed to allow my husband to sleep with me. And that is the truth. And I apologize regarding the year. Maybe I made a mistake in my previous statement when I mentioned 1977. And as I said, when I am asked many questions back and forth, it gets confused. Council. My apology as well, Madam Civil Party, because your statement was made in 2009 and it's been, 7 years now. That's why I'd like to ask you to try to remember whether the statement that you made in 2007, which is closer to the event, to the date of the event, is more accurate than now, which is 7 years later, or which version is the correct one. Please try to recall when you consummated the marriage with your husband. Was it about a year after the marriage day, or was it a fortnight after? Answer. It was not immediately after the marriage day, but I cannot tell you how long or how many months or year. I might made a mistake in my previous statement, or the interviewer made a mistake, because I noticed that there are some mistakes in my previous statement. And again, my apology if I make mistake. And now I don't feel that well. I get confused and I feel a bit dizzy when you ask me back and forth about the event. Council, my apology as well. However, this is my legal duty to put such questions to you, and I hope you understand it. Again, allow me to reiterate my point regarding your first consummation with your husband. You said that you did not resist him because when you went downstairs to relieve yourself, you saw some soldiers under the house. And when you went up to the house, although you didn't argue with him, but did you physically resist it? Answer, we did not argue because although he was a soldier, he was also afraid when I told him that there were soldiers under the house. And in the morning he went to his place and I went to my place, and he returned to see me again in about a month, and probably that was the time that we also had sex. Question. When you went downstairs to relieve yourself and you saw soldiers, can you tell the chamber how far were the soldiers from your house? Answer, they were nearby, but as I stated, it's not my habit to talk in bed. Even with my first husband, I did not talk to him in bed. They were there trying to listen to what we say, but I did not say anything, so they could not hear anything. Question. I'd like to ask you about their positions. How far were they from the house? Answer, I have just told you. They were nearby, they were not that far, they were not like 10 meters away. No, they were within the vicinity of the house. Although I noticed their presence, I pretended not to see them. So I went back up the house after. Of course, they were ordered by their chief to come and to eavesdrop on us. and they were staying under the house and not far from the house. Question. Regarding the house that you were staying, can you tell the chamber the height of the house? Answer. As I said, they made small houses, and the house was not that high from the ground. There were only 3 staircases, and it was not that big. It was small, as a makeshift shed where you used to gas the rice field and to chase away the sparrows. Question. So the house where you stayed, it was a thatch roof, and what about the floor? What was the floor made from? The floor, answer, the floor was made from bamboo. It was not a proper wooden floor. And such house, during the time that a thatch roof house with bamboo floor was a luxury. Question. And what about the walls of the house, the thatch walls? Were there any gaps where people could see through? Answer. They were newly built houses, so the walls were fully enclosed and there was no gap. As for the window was pretty high, so from the ground you could not see inside the house. I don't know what else I can say. It happened like 40 years ago. How could I describe a particular detail regarding those small houses? As I said, it was a small house and it was not that high from the ground. There was only 3 staircases, and they used thatch and barks from the trees as walls. Council, before the lunch break, I'd like to ask another point. You said that night you agreed to consummate the marriage with your husband. And why did you think that it was a rape when you agreed to consummate the marriage that night? And you did not understand me clearly. I stated yesterday that immediately after I got married, when we went to the room, he forced upon me. He wanted to rape me, but I resisted him, and for that reason he went to make that a complaint to Pan, his chief, and Pan called me to meet him. So that was what happened on the night of the marriage, and not later on when I met him for another time. Because for for that night I did not love him, so I did not allow him to have sex with me. Question. And for the second time that you slept with him, did you have sex with him voluntarily? Answer. For the second encounter, we didn't make any move. He did not do anything because we were afraid that we were under monitoring, and that's what I have said repeatedly. You keep asking me back and forth, but I believe my statement is in chronological order. Counsel, I have another question before the break. Madam, can you tell the chamber at which point that you have sex with your husband? Answer. It was months later, not during the first or the second encounters. Only later on that when I was so afraid, so I agreed to sleep with him. But it did not happen for the first or the second encounter. But I cannot tell you how many months after or which year that it happened. What I can recall and tell you is that by late 78 I delivered my child. It happened so many years ago, and I believe when you are this young you may not recall all the details. Council, thank you. President, it is now appropriate for a lunch break. We take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon to continue our proceedings. And Madam Civil Party, you may rest and please return to the courtroom at 1:30. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Q Sompon to the waiting room downstairs and having returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court stands in recess.
សូមចេញក្រោកឈរ